Fans of the Horus Heresy, welcome to a washing up video. Only joking. This is a viewer request video by Egalogalis, I think, if I get the pronunciation correct. And he asked Leakycheese, could you do a set of videos showing how you clean up and prepare parts for Forge World models? So yeah, this is first instalment. So when you get a model from Forge World, you can have some sludgy, gunky stuff on it, which is basically a type of grease that they line the molds with to aid the parts being taken out and basically extend the life of the mold. I mean, I suppose, what does this mean? Well, when you come to paint your model, it can create surface imperfections which can show through into the final paint scheme. So the way to remove it is a simple bit of good old water and some soap. So yeah, good old washing up liquid, whatever you want. I mean, what's this? This is fairy platinum. It could be anything. You don't need a lot. Just bob a bit in there into any sort of plastic container. I mean, Mrs. Leakycheese is has an extensive collection of plastic containers. So it's great for me because I can use one for my modelling, and the chances of actually using one I'm not supposed to use is quite low. So that's great, so I don't get told off. So a bit of a detergent, and then straightforward, bolt the parts in. Simple as that. So we've got Rhino hulls going in, all the Rhino parts, bye-bye dozer blade, and we're just going to put all those guys in there. Now, key things here, with the water, the emphasis is on warm, not hot water. I would not advise using hot water to do this, because if you use hot water, there's a chance that the resin parts will reach a temperature at which they become soft and can be distorted. And if you're going to clean your parts straight away with a brush and you heat them up to a point where it can be distorted, you might do damage to the part. Now, I don't use that approach. A few triaris bits going in here as well. What I do is I put the parts in, I give them a scrub, and then I leave them. And I basically come back to it the next day. And what we should find, or if there's any gunge to release agent, we'll find little wispy grey bits floating in this water. But, I mean, here we've just got like a simple style nail brush. And if we take a part, we can just give it a bit of a rub over, and just go through and work your way through them like that. Don't use anything too abrasive, so you don't want to damage the surface of your parts. In Forge World's PDF, they suggest using a quote slightly abrasive brush. And they say if you rub the surface up, that will just help with the super gluing. I would not do that. I would not use a brush that is going to do any damage or anything to the surface of your parts whatsoever. It wants to be a stiff but soft brush, because particularly if you're cleaning off, say, let's say a Horus Heresy character series model where the detailing is extremely fine, and you've got an abrasive brush, you could easily take noses, eyes, facial expressions off, fine armor, detailing, etc. So yeah, stick to a stiff yet soft brush. So yeah, so basically, I mean, I'm not going to do the whole lot. I'm not going to bore you with it, but work your way through, give them a rub, and then just leave them to soak. As I say, I'll leave them overnight and come back to them later. If you're in a bit of a rush, you could do it all at one go. Anyway, so we've got the part, they're in the detergent, scrubbed off. I'm going to leave them to soak, and then we'll come back to them once they're done. And what I'm going to try do in the next, when we return to them, is see if I can show you in the water bits of the release agent floating around. Right, let's see what happens next. So these parts have been stood for a good long while now. They've had a really good soak. You can see all the detergent bubbles have faded, so I think it's safe to assume that's done its work. Right, I'm just going to take the camera in close now and just see if we can see any evidence of release agent floating around in the water that the detergent has removed. I mean, I've had a look over this already, and to be honest, I didn't really think there was much evidence of release agent on these particular ones. And you don't always get it. I mean, you can get absolutely clean, crisp molds. I mean, just having a little stir around. There's quite a lot of resin detritus, but that's mainly stuff that's come off the edge of keys. But, you know, it doesn't look to me like there's an awful lot of release agent come off there. I mean, if it does, it's kind of, it forms like you get like a dark greyish black film floating around, maybe with a blob on the end of it, and that's what you're looking for to know if release agent's being brought away. I mean, in general, the water is slightly discoloured, so there's you know, something's come off, and there's some little black flecks floating around. But yeah, overall, those parts do seem to be being pretty clean in the first place. So yeah, not perhaps the most dirty parts to clean up. But there you go. So just a quick overview of washing and cleaning resin components. And hello again. So after I showed you the parts after they'd finished soaking last night, I took them out and let them dry overnight, and coming to inspect them in the morning, most of them look good apart from this this cupola sprue, where there is actually, now if you look at the cupola on the left hand side, this guy here, you can see that there's some shiny material on the leading edge of that, the opposite edge to where the hinge is. And if we can get some nice camera angles, you can, it's a little bit tricky to get the light on it. Oops, particularly tricky if you start dropping parts. There you go. So you can see that shiny edge. So that is still some gunge left on it, and that's actually forming a bit of relief on the surface of that part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this bit a special personal attention rinse to see if we can get that off. Let's see what happens. So another bit of soaking, and on this particular stubborn piece, and we've got some good results. And this is what I was hoping to be able to show you on the first example. So the cupolas and bolts have been soaking for a while. You know, I gave them a bit of a scrub when I put them in with a slightly hotter water, but you remember I talked about seeing grey wispy bits. Well, you can see them there, and all that disgusting looking sludgy slimy stuff is a release agent that's come off, and you can see it wisping around there. So yes, so I guess so a couple of tips there. Firstly, the advantage of looking at parts that you've cleaned in natural light, because you can sometimes see things that you can't under artificial light. And secondly, you know, if you don't get all the release agent off with, you know, warm water, you know, take the stubborn parts and just increase the water temperature a bit, add a bit more detergent and see if that works. I mean, you know, it's always better to do things gradually and by steps in this regard, rather than wanging all the parts in really hot water to start with. Just deal with the problem cases specifically. Okay, well, I'm going to wash and dry this off and then just show you it for final reference. And here we have it. So I've dried the cupolas off now. To be honest, there's still some stuff on there, and I think that's probably unlikely to simply wash off. So I'm going to call it quits on washing this at this point, and I'm just going to remove that with a little bit of sanding to get that final bit down. But yeah, anyway, I hope you found that an interesting introduction to cleaning forge wall parts prior to assembly. Thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you next time, and goodbye.